Okay, so here is command and control for the solar system. Now I brought up this page here. This is what I use to kind of track the weather in our local area. So I use AccuWeather, and as you can see, we're coming up on the 10 a.m. range. So anytime it flips to the next hour, so in this case we're at a little past 9 a.m. on August 22nd. It shows you what's going to happen in the next hour. So we can see in the hourly phase here, we're going to be 85. Looks like we're going to probably get up to 97 at the peak today. And no possibility, well, maybe tonight, we might have some thunderstorms tonight. There's a 50-50 shot, but it's monsoon season, so anything can happen, folks. The other thing I like about this site is it's pretty accurate compared to weather.com. And I like the radar page a little bit better. I can zoom out just with my scroll of my mouse to see what's going on down in Mexico, because a lot of our weather down here in southern Arizona is influenced by what comes up from the Pacific Ocean through Mexico. We had a pretty good rain the other day, thanks to that. But you can see there's some weather out here on the ocean. There's some up here in Colorado. And Texas is getting slammed around Corpus Christi, Austin, Houston area, somewhere in there. But nothing on the radar for us. So I like to be able to zoom in. And as soon as I hit Benson here, that's when I start taking a look here. This is the Dragoon Mountain Range. This affects us. There's also a mountain range back here that flanked Arizona State Highway 90. This is Highway 80. So this little corridor right here is where we live, down in through here. And these mountains really affect the weather patterns. So if we're swirling this way, if we're swirling clockwise coming from the north, we'll get rain. If we're swirling counterclockwise coming up from the south, it's a crapshoot if we get rain. If you're familiar with some of the other channels here, like Green Dream Project, they live down in this area, so their weather patterns a little bit different than ours. It'll usually rain down there pretty good where we'll get nothing, and then vice versa. So even though we're, maybe 50, 70 miles apart, our weather patterns are a little bit different because of these mountain ranges that surround us all around. So let's get back to the star of the show here. Let's get to our solar setup. This is the Schneider Conext gateway. We have the newer version of that. They used to sell an older version, but I'm glad I got the newer version because the feature set is so much nicer. I wish they would show you that we have multiple charge controllers here on this screen, but they don't. This is kind of like the overview dashboard showing you the power flow. So you can see right here, the panels are pulling in 3.5K. It's only 10 after 9 right now, and we're already getting that much. Batteries are at 73%. Now, stupid me, JC and I went out to dinner last night in Tucson. I left the air conditioner on in here. We left about 5 o'clock, and it was still kind of warm, and I didn't want the equipment. I had my servers on. I've got them off right now because it'd be really loud in here. But anyway, I left it on, and all the servers were running, and I woke up this morning thinking, oh crap, I left the AC on all night, and we were only down to 60% in our batteries. So we're doing really, really good. As I said before, we have a little over 30 kilowatt hours of battery power in our BYD batteries. And then obviously here's our inverter, and then this represents our loads. Obviously we don't have the house built yet, but right now we're pulling very little. And just to show you, I'm going to turn on the AC here in the room, and we'll kick it to about 84 degrees. So it kicked on a little bit because the fan kicked on, and then watch what happens here. We can monitor what's going on here when our loads kick up. Give it a second for the AC to decide to kick on. And I heard it kick on. There it goes. Boom, we kicked up to 1.4. Now, what's really interesting, one thing I kind of like about this AC unit is a lot of times when you have inductive loads, you'll see a huge spike. So if you turned on a pump or an air compressor, even your refrigerator, depending on how big it is, or a freezer, you'll see it spike the load. And technically speaking, it might have spiked a little bit more, but because these are on 1 second delays, it doesn't really show me that much. But it doesn't take long for it to power up, so you don't see a very long spike. And we'll take a look at that when we get deeper into what each of these components can show us as far as reporting. So if we dig into our charge controller here, we can see now I've got 2. We're in bulk charging mode because it's still early morning and our batteries are not considered near full yet. So we can see here we've got about 2 kilowatts coming into this array, and this one over here just under 2 kilowatts. Now this first array is made up of 12 335 watt panels. The second array is made up of 12 315 watt panels. Now both of those can definitely overdrive these charge controllers because of the ability that those panels have, that we're always getting more output from the 335 watt. I bought both sets of panels from a company here local to us called Santan Solar. And if you're thinking about doing solar, I really recommend you check them out. They specialize in recovering used panels that are beyond their warranty. Now that doesn't mean they don't work, that doesn't mean they're not good. Companies, when they come off of lease, they'll rotate the panels out and they'll sell them on the gray market. And so companies like Santan will come in and buy them and then turn them around to the end user market, and you'll be able to buy those at a huge discount. Now the ones I have are LG factory rejects. Now they can't really tell you or advertise them as being LG factory panels, but I think they market them as Santan brand panels. Now they don't come with the same factory warranty as the LGs out of the factory do. I think they come with, a huge 15 or 20 year warranty. These come with only a year or two, but they work awesome. I mean, like I said, I get full power. I get rated spec out of these panels. And for whatever reason, LG counted them as rejects and sold them on the gray market. Santan Solar is one of those companies that picks them up and they pass them on to you. Now, I do recommend, too, that you can look at their website, but call them because their stock rotates like crazy and they get some great stuff in. Especially if you really want to buy new, you can do that and take advantage of what we did. We got them for basically $100 a panel is what we ended up paying for these. I think we paid about $105 for the first set, the 335s, and $102 for them. And they're great. They also have the connectors for you. You can even buy equipment there as well, but I bought mine actually somewhere else. But yeah, these things are awesome. Can't say enough good things about Santan Solar. And since we live so close, we actually went and picked them up. I've got an F350, a Ford F350 pickup. We just drove down, or up there, I guess you would say, because they're little bit southeast of Phoenix, and we drove up there and they forklift them in the back of the truck for us and we pulled them down, so it saved us a ton on shipping. But anyway, you can see what's going on here with our solar array. Now if we switch back up here, we can look at our inverter. We can see what's going on here, and you can see our AC load. We're pulling just under 240 volts, little under 900 watts. I guess the air conditioner has slowed down. It's not too hot this morning, so it's not having to pull too much duty. You can see I don't have anything coming in. We're not connected to the grid, so our AC1 voltage is 0, AC2 power is 0, all that stuff. When we get the generator back, though, we'll end up hooking that over to AC2 power, and you'll see that. And you can see right here, we're pulling, 840 watts out of DC in order to generate this power here. If we look at our other devices tab, we can see this is where our battery monitor is, and I also bought the SCP. So basically that's a bit overkill, but this guy acts like a brain for the entire system, which is kind of cool. You can do every single thing configuration wise, monitoring wise, that I can do with this software from this panel. Obviously it's a little bit slower. I got to flip through menus to do all that or to get the data out, but this guy is great when you're in a pinch and you need to be able to figure out, or let's say for some reason I can't get on my network and I can't get to the Batmon, or I can't get to the Conext gateway. I can come to this guy and see what's going on with the system. He'll show you things like error codes and alerts. Like I said, this guy's kind of the brain of the system when you have it incorporated, so it's really nice. So I've basically got, if we go back to the dashboard, I've got two charge controls. If we talk about Modbus connections, which is the interconnect between all of the Schneider equipment, I went 100% Schneider because I wanted to be able to have a unified communication system like this that I could monitor. So I've got two charge controllers. I've got the Batmon. So I've got 5 different devices. Now this doesn't show the Conext gateway, so technically I have 6 because that's how the Conext gateway gets all the data. So I've got 6 devices connected to that Modbus. Now, I know there is a limit to what you can connect, but I will never reach it. Even after we add our second inverter, we'll probably never reach it. Just know there is a limit, but you can get pretty expansive with this system and be able to still go on a single connection. You don't have to have multiple monitoring systems to make that happen. Now I can actually control everything from right here. If I wanted to shut down my system, I could put it in standby from right here, and that would kill power to the entire homestead. I don't want to do that, obviously, because I'm recording and talking to you guys, but anyway, I could do that as well. Now this is a cool devices dashboard because I can see everything that's going on. I can see here my battery's now at 74% since we've been talking. I can see what amps are going in, what the voltage is, what my battery temperature. I've got a sensor connected to one of the batteries here to give me the output. This actually ties into the Modbus system so that if for some reason the batteries got a little too warm, it would shut down the system for me as well. If we come over here to the events section, I don't have any events. I did historically have some events because I did shut things down while I was incorporating the new controller. You can come back here and see back in June, what did I do? Battery voltage below 47 volts. So we actually, this is one of the reasons why we scrambled and put in that second array, because we noticed that our batteries were dipping below a safety level and I wanted our inverter to cut out. So you can see this came from our inverter, the XW Pro, and it basically shut down the system so that we wouldn't ruin our batteries. I've got the charge controller events here, basically because we had an incident where the current was too high, and that was probably when I was just going through and setting things up, so there was probably an event that I hadn't shut it down or something. And then these two events were when I was bringing it into production. These two events are kind of funny. I was playing around with some generator settings, getting ready to hopefully receive our Generac back and tie it into the system. So I was playing around and I actually changed the wrong setting in the XW Pro, and I set the voltage discharge current to match what the generator could do. And unfortunately, we weren't on 100% generator. We were still on solar and battery. So obviously, I had air conditioners on and everything. And JC flipped on the microwave and boom. The inverter said, nope, can't do it. We're going over 30 amps, so we're going to shut that down. And twice, it took me before I figured out that I changed the setting in there. What's cool about this too is I can go in here, I can change my plant setup, so I can define some stuff about my configuration. Now that inverter, I think, should be able to populate this, and maybe in a future revision of an upgrade from Schneider, they'll be able to get this. But I put this in on what my AC capacity is, what year it was installed. Actually, I got this really installed in 2019, but because I wanted the data to be reset, I reset it to 2020. We did all that, and then I gave it a friendly name for our Conext gateway. So you can do all kinds of stuff in here. And this is for the configuration of the Conext gateway, so you can change all kinds of things in here. Now, what's really cool about this is if we go into the configuration here, I can click on a particular device and zoom in on that guy. So I'm zooming in on the inverter here, and I can get detailed statistics about what's going on with pretty much everything to do with that device. I can see its performance graph-wise, and right now it's showing me, current, really cool dial graphs here on what's going on. If I was tied to the grid, what I'm pulling from the grid. One of the reasons why I bought this particular device is it has the ability to not only do grid tie, so I could sell back to the grid, but it has a feature known as grid shaving. So I can actually have it behind the grid, not sell back, but be able to pull power from the grid when it's advantageous for me. So most people live in areas where your power company charges you different rates throughout the day for your power. Well, you can program this guy to say, hey, you know what? This time of the day, I want to make sure I run off a battery. Even if, I don't have any sun, I want to run off battery because the power company's gouging me on prices. But when I dip back, I want to be able to pull from the grid because maybe the prices are right and I want to run some extra loads. Maybe I'm having a big party and I know I'm going to be using a lot of juice or something. So I can actually shave power off the grid when it's convenient for me. Likewise, if I was doing maintenance on my system, we see the load kicked up there. I heard the air conditioner kick on, the compressor kick on, so we kicked up there. But anyway, what's nice for me is, if I'm doing maintenance on the system, if I wanted to tie into the grid, now we're going to use a generator to act kind of like the grid, I can pull from that and be able to subsidize my solar and battery usage. Now you see here in this graph, it's only showing you two things. It's showing you the load and it's showing you the DC energy out. Now out means out of DC and technically into the inverter. DC in is if, let's say, I had the grid connected or generator connected and I was feeding back into my batteries. This guy can actually charge my batteries for me. So I can get kind of detailed with that. I can see how I've done over days. I can see how I've done over months. You can see when I reset the system here in February. And look at our usage. been climbing. Now we're not quite done with August, but I'm pretty darn sure, since it's only the 22nd, August is going to be probably our biggest month for energy usage, at least till we get into the house and heat becomes more of a demand. But you can see we're starting to climb, and we're taking advantage of electricity as our number one resource for energy. We're getting away from using propane. We're getting away from gas as much as we can. All of my tools I'm switching over to battery power where necessary. And if not, I have electrical tools so they can run off the solar. I can get into configuration in here, but you can read about this. You can go in and change all your configuration. Myriad of settings on this thing. It's crazy what you can do with this. Same thing with the charge controllers. I can go in and I can affect the configuration of these guys as well. And as you can see, I clicked on the first one and you see charge mode status is set to primary. So this is my primary charge control. This is the original one that's connected to the 335 watt panel array. One of the things I wanted to show you though is from the dashboard here, looks like probably the freezer and the fridge kicked on because we're up to 2K now, is the battery summary. I left the AC on so you can see these dips and spikes. This is the amperage that's pulling from the battery, and you can see when the air conditioner, now it's probably just the fan that kicked on at 12 a.m. because we got down to the 70s overnight, and I think I had this set to 86 maybe, or 84, I forget. So this is just quick spikes that are turning the fan on and off just to make sure we maintain that temperature. But you can see here's the temperature in the room. So the temperature in the room was 27°C, and one of the reasons why, just a second here, I have another window here. Let me bring this on to here. I keep this page open because I'm not really good at converting Celsius to Fahrenheit. I can see it was at 80.6 degrees. So you can see here we maintained somewhere between 26 and 27°C all night long. So since I know the thermostat on that thing was probably set like between 84 and 86, this is just the fan kicking on and off. And then some of these longer spikes, our freezer, refrigerator. Blue line shows you our voltage. Look how steady our voltage stayed. And there was only dips when the fan kicked on. We stayed pretty level. And then you notice this yellow line is our state of charge. So we went down from this line here, state of charge. So we were up about 80 some percent at midnight and started slowly creeping down till we bottomed out here at, it shows 66%. I'm not sure if you can read that or not. 66% in the bubble there. And that's when we see the voltage start to slowly climb up here as we start generating our own power. Now, this dip right here also designates, and this big dip right here in the amperage is when JC started coffee this morning. So we had coffee going. Otherwise, you'd see the amperage, if you look at the average across here, you can see it start to roll in an upward pattern because obviously we're producing sun and we're charging those batteries back up. And in here you can see the dip down here when I started turning on the air conditioner. But hey, I don't care because these batteries will be full by 1 o'clock at the latest, even if there's some cloud cover in here. So this is really cool, and I can change this to say, okay, what did it look like yesterday? You can see here's the thing I left on all night, and the way I have the configuration for the charge control, you can see we pretty much topped off here at 11:30 a.m. Now what probably happened at this point is our charge controls wouldn't float because our battery was up at 95% state of charge, and I have them set very conservatively because these are used batteries and I want them to last a long time. I actually set them at very conservative levels, but I have it set so that we don't spike too high because these batteries are used, they're not very well balanced, and I don't actually have a battery monitoring system on them yet. And frankly, I don't really think I need to. I mean, I've got this so dialed in now and I'm monitoring it all the time that I don't really see a need to. I've watched runaway events and I've dialed in the charge settings so that I don't have to worry about runaway events anymore. You can see we were in float quite a while till we finally plateaued here at 100%. And then I'm assuming at this point, what are we at here? 557. The sun dipped over, or we had cloud cover, and our usage, because the AC was on, started outstripping our production. So we started sliding down here until we got down here to just before midnight. We're at 81%. Like I said, we're doing pretty good. So I can look over That was yesterday. I can compare it to the day before. Now, one of the things I really like about this thing is the energy consumption graphs. So this is showing you the current for today usage. So this is our load output. You can see when Julie started making coffee, huge spike there. She also turned on the hot water here and also had the hairdryer going. She's taking a CPR class this morning, so she had to do that. I wish Schneider would change this to remember the settings, because I always have to go in here and flip these data points on. They always start with generator and grid. For some reason, they really like you to favor being on the grid, man. I don't know why. It's really dumb. For us off-grid people, I wish we could set this so that I didn't have to change it every time. So I like to change the orange to PV input. And you can see this spike or this rise in production of our PV input and how it outstrips the load. So right here, we started gaining some input right about 6 a.m. Technically, it probably started happening. This only shows hour increments. So we probably started getting some right after 5 a.m. Yep, there's actually 6 watt hours of PV input at 5 a.m., but it doesn't show up on this graph. We start progressing up until we get up to the max. Now this will actually max out 6.5 kilowatts of input with the current setup. What I like to do with the green is I like to show the DC output. Now this is actually going to the battery, and then the DC input shows what we're pulling off the batteries as well. So you can see these guys are going to be equal, and then it'll start changing as the day progresses. Now what's cool about this is I can look at this over days, so we can see this month. So at least for the month of August, we can see what production we have. Now, this day right here, which was the 4th, was our largest production as well as load. We consumed 42.8 kilowatt hours and we produced 43.7. Now, that does not represent the amount of solar we could actually produce, because like I said, I have these charge controllers retarded at a point where I don't overdrive the battery. So they actually gear down as the batteries climb to a certain state of charge so that they don't overdrive those batteries. So we could, if we turned on loads, I think that day too, because the load was so high, we had both air conditionings going. Julie had the hot plate going. We cook off an induction hot plate as well as crock pot, although I think she just did the hot plate. I had my servers going and fridge and freezer. It was a hot day, so I'm sure they were kicking on and off quite a bit. And I probably had some other stuff going as well. So you can see load output wise, 42.8 kilowatts. So as I said, we can view this over any period of time, months. You can see we've always outpaced our solar production to our load. Now, that doesn't mean that there's some days, like if we go back here to June, where you can see our load outstripped our solar production. And we had a couple of these. See where the yellow peaks higher than the other lines? Here's a really bad one, actually 2 days in a row, 4th and the 5th, and then we also had here on the 1st and the 2nd. So this is what caused us to install that second array, because June was a very cloudy month. And if we switch over to July, we can see there's a couple of days here at the beginning of the month too. Now this is right before we brought the second array online. As you can see, boom, there's only one day here where our our load, maybe 2 days, really outstripped our solar production. And then you can just see our solar's just kicking butt the rest of July. So this is about when we brought it online. That second array brought it online and really started kicking butt in solar production. So we're really loving it. But I love this graph to be able to go in and be able to evaluate things over a period of time, over days, over months. And once we're out here for a while and I get some more data, I can do it over years as well. So that's kind of the reason why we went Schneider, what we like about the system, and how we actually manage and use solar to our benefit. We've been out here a little over a year. We started off on a Predator generator, found the inabilities of a 3,500 watt Predator generator for what we wanted to do. We also have a Honda EU2000 that I use just for powering tools and stuff. But then we realized we had to upgrade. And once we started realizing how much time it was taking to maintain the generator, get up in the morning when it's freezing cold outside to go turn on the generator so you can make coffee. And because I still work, I needed that generator in order to be able to work. So I have to keep the generator on all day while I'm online doing a Zoom meeting, or while I'm trying to, figure out something on the computer or help a customer do something. It got to be a real pain, and we decided, hey, pull the trigger on that thing now that thing being solar, and we are so glad we did. This has really changed our lives considerably for living off grid. You never realize how much you take electricity for granted when you live in the suburbs, in the city. Even where we lived in horse country in Prescott, but we still had electricity, and you get so accustomed to just going over to the wall, flipping the light switch on, boom, lights come on. Going over to the microwave, putting in your, hot pocket or whatever and flipping it on for a minute and 30 seconds and boom, you've got lunch. You never realize those convenience and how much you rely on electricity. One of those things for getting out of that life and trying to simplify. And really what we wanted to take back control. For me, it's all about not having anybody else control my life. That's why we're never having a mortgage again. We don't have a car payment. We are paying down all our debt, getting our daughter through college, building our own house debt-free. So it's all about control and being able to say what we want, when we want, how we want. There's nothing bad that can be said about wanting to take control of your own life like that. Anyway, enough rambling. This has been JCDC and the AZ. Hope you enjoyed this little overview of our solar system and how we use solar in our lives. Hope to see you out there in the YouTube land.